Hello everybody and welcome to New Music Friday today. It's October 8th, 2021, and this is where I bring you guys the latest in the world of prog and music in general, and hopefully you guys enjoy some of the items I have today. It's kind of a little bit of a grab bag of little different items I've found here and there, but it should be kind of interesting for people who are fans of a lot of the same bands as me. But before I get into the news items, I did want to say a quick thank you to everybody for your support, because I've reached 1,000 subscribers, and it was really a goal of mine to reach that level, and it's just amazing that I was able to do it. When I started this channel, it was just an idea of some fun hobby that I could do, and I didn't expect to get a lot of viewers. I thought maybe a couple people would maybe enjoy it who like prog like I do, and it's really built, and it's really been a fun ride. So just wanted to put that at the outset, that I'm grateful to have reached that goal of 1,000 subscribers. I have a show coming up, my 100th episode. This episode here is episode 98 of Nathan on Shuffle. Believe it or not, I put out a lot of videos. So number 99 will be the next Jana Reacts on Sunday, and then after that we'll be releasing our 100th episode. Me and Jana are filming that this weekend and releasing it early next week. So it should be a fun time. We're going to talk about kind of a retrospective of the channel so far, some of our ideas of what's coming, and just kind of use it as a reset for the channel and a good introduction for newer subscribers. So hopefully you guys are interested and will join us in that kind of celebratory video. We're going to do sort of a Q&A session with some of the questions we've received, so should be a fun time. So I urge you guys to check that out when it drops. So but first I wanted to kind of start the news items with some touring news, different concert things that are happening. These are kind of things that have been ongoing discussions, so I thought I'd kind of give the minor updates to them. But first of all, today and tomorrow is Morsefest for this year, and so of course as a giant Neil Morse fanatic, I'm super excited about it. I have my virtual tickets. I'm watching virtually. They're doing kind of like a stream of the concert that's airing tonight and tomorrow night. First night tonight is the Innocence night, where they're playing kind of the shorter, maybe poppier type songs in their catalog. Of course, a lot of that being part of the first disc of their new album, Innocence and Danger. I'm sure they're going to play all the songs from that Innocence disc of their new album, along with probably a lot of classics and different choices. It's really exciting because I don't know what to expect. Then the second night, tomorrow night, is the Danger night, where they're going to just focus on the massive epics. I'm sure including the 2 epics from their new album. So that should be an exciting time. They promised to play some songs they haven't played in a long time. It may be the last time you ever hear some of these songs played live, so should be a big, exciting event. And it'll be fun to watch, because I was planning to go to the tour, their date in Seattle this upcoming week, but of course that tour was postponed into February. So this is kind of the only chance this year to be able to see this kind of a show. So I recommend, if you haven't already have tickets or whatever, to, you can go get virtual tickets if you want. I believe that's still available. And it should be a fun time if you're a big Neil Morse fan like I am. There's some exclusive merch, I believe, that's going to be available to people attending. And, there's going to be an Inner Circle, his fan group. There's going to be an Inner Circle concert coming up tomorrow morning as well. So I plan to kind of give a review of the whole experience next week sometime, perhaps. We'll see when I'm able to film it. So I kind of wanted to give a little bit of an impression of how I felt about the show and how fun it was and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's something interesting to you guys. Beyond that, I saw that some of the upcoming dates for Genesis have been postponed. It looks like the final 4 shows of their last Domino tour postponed because, of course, COVID. It sounds like someone in the band received a positive test for COVID, so they're going to have to reschedule, and there's a lot going on with that. I know some people are probably disappointed or planning on those shows and so forth. So I wanted to bring that to people's attention. But I've heard good things about the shows. It sounds like it's had a positive reception. And they're very special shows because these are probably the last shows that Phil Collins will ever do with the band. He's kind of making statements that this is kind of it for him because of his health issues and so forth. So really a unique opportunity to see them. And hopefully there isn't too much postponement going forward, that they're able to reschedule and do these dates successfully and continue on with their tour without much of a hiccup. So, but it's unfortunate, it's kind of the state of the world and how things go lately, that things, concerts are often getting postponed and delayed and so forth. So I guess Genesis isn't immune to that either. So, and the other side of the coin here is Marillion. I've talked a bit about Marillion, and I wanted to mention that they're kind of doing something unique to fund their upcoming UK tour. They're kind of relying on their fans to help crowdfund their tour. They've done this a lot with their albums, had, their fans crowdfund the albums so they can pay for them. They're really great at doing it. They're kind of one of the big people who've started this trend of crowdfunding albums, and they just have a massive campaign to get that done. And so now they're doing it with their upcoming tour because, speaking of COVID and how the pandemic affects these tours, it's a lot of risk involved to go on a tour, and it could be canceled if just one of the crew members or whatever contracts COVID. And so they're kind of helping to build up some COVID insurance, I suppose, from their fan base to try to make it viable for them to be able to tour and to afford the risk that may come from that. So, and of course, with supporting them in that way, you donate that money to them, but then they're going to reward those fans with some money can't buy items, some specialized items that only people who've crowdfunded are able to receive. So, there's some incentives there. So you could go to their website to kind of get the full picture of what it means to be part of that program. I believe they're calling it the Lightsavers, so because the tour is going to be called The Light at the End of the Tunnel. So hopefully that helps them out and allows them to be able to carry on with their tour. And it's a tough time for musicians. This pandemic has been a really tough thing for, musicians who make their living mostly off of touring and stuff and haven't been able to for a year and a half or more. So it's really tough, and they're trying really hard to get back out there, but there's still some logistic problems and things that they're trying to work through. So any support there is much appreciated, I'm sure. And so that's something I wanted to mention at the outset, because I feel like there's a lot of fans of these bands, and hopefully they can tour successfully in the coming future. I'm really encouraged for 2022 having some really stable tour dates for a lot of these bands. So it should be a great time for touring. Next, I wanted to talk about an exciting upcoming album announcement. This is the new Star One album, Revel in Time, which is going to be released in February 18th by Inside Out Music. Of course, Star One is one of the projects from Arjen Lucassen, who's the genius behind Arjen, which is one of my all-time favorite projects, where he does all these massive concept albums done to sci-fi stories and brings on a whole cast of vocalists and musicians to help out. And Star One is more, instead of a big giant concept album that has a storyline, each song has a concept and is based upon a different sci-fi movie or TV series. And so it's kind of its own unique lane. And I feel like Star One tends to be a little bit more on the heavier side than Arjen, where Arjen kind of embraces the prog a bit more, I suppose. But there's still, of course, Arjen's sound baked into Star One as well. So it still has that same quality, but it leans maybe more on the progressive metal side than the progressive rock side, I would say. But this new album is focused on stories about time travel, essentially, different sci-fi movies and series that focus on that. He's been doing these little teases on his Facebook page, on social media, where it's like a guessing game where he'll show us a shot of the lyrics and you kind of guess what movie is inspired those lyrics. So, it's been really fascinating and fun to kind of get the idea of the inspiration of these songs before the album is even released. And now he's jumping into the guessing game of the different vocalists and artists that are part of the project. So that should be a fun thing. If you want to participate in that, follow him on social media, and I'm sure you'll be directed to these little short videos where you can guess the artists and guess the singers. So, and what's kind of interesting about this is there's going to be 2 discs, 2 CDs to the album, and it's the same exact album, but with a different set of singers on each disc. I guess he got, an abundance of different singers he wanted to use, and so he's kind of doubling the album in a sense and redoing the album but with different singers. And it's not reworkings of the songs or anything. It's not like alternate versions really, beyond that it's different singers. So, it's just an interesting concept, and I think it could be a fun release. Definitely one I'll review and that I'll look at. And the pre-orders start on December 17th, and it sounds like there's a lot of different big packages. It comes as a limited 2 CD digipack, limited deluxe 3 CD plus Blu-ray art book, and a 180 gram gatefold 2 LP, which includes the CD as well. So just a lot of cool stuff going on with that. There's going to be some great behind the scenes video on that Blu-ray and so forth, 5.1 high-res audio. So of course it's just going to be a fantastic release because Arjen does all the bells and whistles and makes sure it's a great product for his fan base. So it should be pretty fun. And so that's something I definitely wanted to mention. So yeah, that should be a really fun album to explore if you're fans of his work like I am, and fans of like sci-fi adventures and sci-fi movies and so forth. Kind of a dream come true for a sci-fi fan like me to have progressive rock influenced songs based on sci-fi stories. So it's really fun. So I really like that. I also wanted to bring up a new single that was released from Hasse Froberg and the musical companion. The track is called To Those Who Rule the World. I listened to it and thought it was fantastic. I'm going to include it in my weekly top 5 that I'm going to be putting in the description from now on. Just a list of my top 5 favorites for the week and links to the YouTube videos where you can check those out. So I plan to put that in this list. I really love Hasse Froberg and his work. He's, of course, a long-standing member of the Flower Kings, doing a lot of vocals for them and, of course, some guitar and stuff. And this is his project aside from the Flower Kings, and it's really great stuff. They've released several albums, and where Flower Kings is kind of full-on symphonic prog, epics, and all this kind of stuff, I feel like Hasse Froberg and the musical companion, although there's definitely lots of prog baked in, I feel like they focus more on kind of a classic rock kind of sound. They meld a little bit of different like blues rock, jazz kind of styles to their music, and it creates an interesting different kind of experience than the Flower Kings, but still related enough. I love the whole family of Flower Kings members. And so this new single, To Those Who Rule the World, I really recommend checking it out. It's really great. It's the band really shining. It's a great track to kind of showcase what the album's about. There's a cool like section that's very groovy, and I love when the music switches up and does something a little bit different. So they go through a few different moods and feels, and the vocals are excellent. So it's very, very good stuff, and I think it's going to be a great album. One I'll definitely feature as an album spotlight down the road when it comes out. The album is called We Are the Truth and comes out November 26th. So definitely something to look for and to be excited for if you like great symphonic prog, if you like the Flower Kings, and I think there's something to love for most prog fans in this record. So it should be a cool one. I did want to mention I saw this pop up, and I'm going to feature it on my weekly top 5 that I mentioned, a kind of new track that I saw. This is Jonas Lindbergh. He's released a new single called Oceans of Time. Sounds like he's releasing a new album called Miles from Nowhere on November 26th, a follow-up to 2016's Pathfinder. This is really an artist that I'm less familiar with, but I really enjoyed the track that was featured. I saw this featured on progreport.com. Check them out they do a lot of prog news and stuff. So I really thought it was a great track, kind of embracing that symphonic prog side of my brain. And it sounds like the album is going to feature Royna Stolt from Flower Kings on a track. There's a big sprawling 25-minute epic that he's on, so there's kind of a connection there maybe with the Flower Kings as well. It sounds like this is going to be a really cool album that I wanted to bring to people's attention. So the track is called Oceans of Time, the single that came out. The album itself is Miles from Nowhere, and so this should be a pretty cool release. And so I just wanted to bring a little bit of attention to that, just a quick hit, to point you guys towards something you may not have heard about or heard of that I think would appeal to my audience. So should be a cool one. And I'll talk more about it, I would imagine, as the album gets closer to release and I learn more about this group and their work. But for now, it's just, I want to point your attention to a great new prog song that really drew my attention. Another kind of interesting bit of news here. I kind of find it interesting that this kind of gets reported by a lot of progressive channels. But there's going to be a new Tears for Fears album called The Tipping Point, which is coming out on February 25th next year. So Tears for Fears is, of course, kind of a very notable pop rock style band from like the 80s. Was their main kind of height of their popularity, of course. And they've gone on to do a lot of really great, interesting music that still kind of has that 80s pop sensibility, but has a little bit of, you know, different things that kind of appeal to prog fans, I would say. You know, different interesting structures and melodies and things that kind of harken back to classic, you know, music that people really love. So this, you know, they released their first single for this album, and it's really cool. I'll feature that as well in my weekly top 5. Really an interesting track that I thought really had a great pop sensibility, but had an interesting backdrop of music. They sound really great. Their vocals are really cool and blend well together, and I just think it's a really cool pop song. You know, you don't hear much of this kind of classic pop sound today, and I think it's kind of refreshing to kind of get some of this better quality pop music kind of coming out. And so this could be a really exciting, interesting album. We'll see how it shakes out, and if it's something I feature. You know, it's not really totally prog, but I think a lot of people who love prog music respect and appreciate this band because they do things that are really interesting musically, and they have a lot of great sensibilities when writing great pop music with great hooks and great, you know, melody and great backing of great soundscapes and music that really is well made and crafted. So really excited for that. Another new single that I saw was coming that's out now, the new Bent Knee single, Queer Gods, from their upcoming album Frosting, which comes out November 5th. This is really an interesting track. I'm going to feature it as well. May not be for everyone. I feel like Bent Knee is kind of, they're an artist that are on the fringes a little bit of what I like. You know, some of their tracks I really think are cool and quirky and interesting. Sometimes, you know, it's a little bit too out there for me, but I really liked this new track. It's kind of leaning more towards a pop direction, I would say, you know, than some of their more avant-garde prog type stuff that they've released in the past. This is like very much bright and sunny pop music that is really kind of fun. So, but it's still, you know, it's not like you're going to hear this on, you know, popular radio. It's still quirky and different and kind of has a little bit of an offbeat quality, but it really does lean into this kind of modern pop aesthetic. And I found it really fun and fascinating and some great vocals, and it just really sound well produced and is a really cool track. So kind of bodes well for me, at least, for what their new album could sound like. Sounds like their album, the Frosting album that's coming out, is kind of a mixture. It's kind of a mix between these more lighthearted pop songs than to some more heavier, nastier songs, they say. So it's going to kind of carry this wild balance, and it sounds like they're going to kind of keep bouncing between those two sounds. So it should kind of be an interesting listen. It could be really bizarre, it could be fun, it could be interesting, but I really think they're one of the most talented, interesting new young bands out there, so I want to bring attention to them and point you that way if you're into that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of cool stuff there. And I did mention them before when I talked about an upcoming tour and so forth. I kind of botched it a little bit and mentioned that I thought the name of the band they're touring with was actually the name of the tour, because the band's name is The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. So that it's their tour, but Bent Knee it sounds like is the opening act for that tour that's coming up. So but anyways, it's a really cool blend of music that I thought was fascinating. And just as a little kind of coda here, because it's one of my favorite bands, and I saw a little bit of a news item from them. It's probably more so news that's coming in a couple weeks. But Riverside which is one of my favorite bands, more of a, progressive metal, but more atmospheric kind of band from Poland. Really incredible group. They're releasing a new single soon. They released on their social media and so forth kind of the cover art for this new single, Story of My Dream, their first studio song recorded with their new lineup with their new member. So that comes out in 4 weeks on October 27th. So that should be a cool single. I'm really excited for new Riverside music. There's really not much more details than that. But I just wanted to kind of get people geared up towards that because it may not be known that they're coming out with some new music. So I don't know if that's leading towards a new full-length album or if they're just doing a single and seeing where it goes, or if it's part of an EP. Maybe someone in the comments will know more about that than I do. But for now, I'm excited to hear a new single by the band in several more weeks. I'm sure it'll be featured as one of my weekly top 5 choices down below. So and that's the news items I had for today. Hopefully you found something interesting in there. Kind of like I said, kind of a weird grab bag of different things by different eclectic, interesting artists. Hopefully there's something to enjoy. As I mentioned throughout the video, I'm going to put in the description my weekly top 5 tracks and links to their videos on YouTube, so you can check that out easily if you would like. As for the channel, like I mentioned at the front of the video, I'm really excited of meeting that milestone of 1,000 subscribers. I'll be talking a lot more about it in our 100th episode coming up, so I please urge you guys to check it out. I definitely want to bring your attention to a show I did with Notes Reviews. This was last week to celebrate his channel's, I believe it was 7-year anniversary. It was me and my wife, Jana came on, and Travis Lausch was also guesting, and we did kind of this roundtable discussion about our 5 Desert Island discs, and it was a lot of fun, and I think a lot of you would maybe appreciate some of my choices, and Jana did her choices, even though they weren't at all in the prog world, but, I think they're very good choices as well, so I think that was a super fun video, so I'm going to link that in the description if you guys haven't checked it out. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it because I think there's a decent amount of crossover between me and Notes Reviews and his channel. But if any of you haven't seen it yet, I think it's a very cool video, and I'm pretty proud of it. So beyond that, I had a great week on the channel. Me and Jana reacted to a great classic prog song from Renaissance that we really loved. I hope you guys would check that out. I know they're not one of the biggest names in the prog world. They're not on the level of Yes and Genesis, although I think they kind of should be. But so it didn't get as many views as some of those bigger name artists. So please go check that out if you like Renaissance or are curious about Renaissance. Really great video. And then I did a review of Yes and their new album, The Quest, this week. Really great response from that one. I was really nervous to put that one out because I know there's some people just really don't like it. Some people like it a lot. There's a lot of differing opinions, and I didn't want to upset anyone with my take on it. But I just have to be me, and I have to be honest about how I feel. I was fairly positive about it. I think I was pretty fair and honest in my assessment. So please check out the review if you haven't yet. I'm sure many of you, if not most of you, have seen that. But really, really cool video that I was really excited to put out there, and I'm pretty proud of it too. So yeah, those are the kind of the main things I wanted to get at. And with that Yes discussion, maybe as a tease, I bought a couple Yes albums, ones that I'm sure aren't highly regarded. I'm doing my album rankings of Yes in a couple weeks. I know I keep teasing it, but it's a big project, and I'm trying to really dive in deep to their catalog and really give a good ranking. And it's difficult because there's such a big catalog. But I was considering doing a show with my dad, and so I bought a couple CDs that I may share with him, where we talk about some of the newest Yes music. I don't think he's heard the last 3 or 4 Yes albums. I know he's heard Magnification, but beyond that, I don't think he's heard them. So I thought it might be fun to get his take on some of these, albums, Heaven and Earth, The Quest, Fly From Here. I got some comments of I'm curious what your dad would think. I have a feeling people expect that he'll be a bit more critical of the albums than I am, and maybe people would enjoy getting that kind of a take on them. So I haven't really talked about it with my dad yet, but it's just kind of in the works. But just wanted to mention that as a possible idea moving forward that I'm still kind of deciding. So put in the comments below if you think that's a good idea, or if you have a better idea of how I can incorporate my dad into a Yes themed show, but I thought it would be funny to get his kind of thoughts on some of the most recent Yes albums that he hasn't heard before. So anyways, just to tease kind of some upcoming things. So once again, please check out that 100th episode when it comes out next week. I think it's going to be a really fun one. It's going to be me and Jana, and we're just going to kind of be talking about the channel so far and what we've enjoyed and what's kind of to come and what we're expecting. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for subscribing. Really appreciate the support. It means a lot to me. I didn't expect this response, and it's just, you know, it means the world to me that people care what I have to say and that you guys value my opinions and my recommendations, and that you come here as kind of a source for at least some of your prog news or prog information. So thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys are having a great time out there, and please just keep enjoying the music, whatever you've got going on, because that's what really matters at the end of the day, is that, you know, I want to promote great music and allow you guys to listen to what you truly love and maybe introduce you guys to a couple of cool new music items. So thank you guys, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Bye.